All right, Zac Blackerby with us. You can watch he and Brad Law on Village Vice, part of the War Down Pods section at Disrupt the Media's YouTube channel. War Down Pods there. Also locked on the Auburn Daily. Follow him on Twitter at Z Blackerby. He is with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. What is up, Zach? How are you?
I'm good. Happy Monday, gentlemen.
Yeah, you too. The last couple times Hugh Freeze has met the media, I've sensed a little frustration. Number one, he didn't like the fact that the quarterback announcement leaked out because he said only 4 people knew and he was one of them.
Sure.
Number two, he talked about having to be the practice jerk, which I found a really interesting comment because he was talking, it seemed like more about his staff than his actual players.
Yeah, I mean, the practice jerk thing kind of just sounds like coaching and holding players accountable. So I was a little surprised that he needed to point that out, but I mean, I guess that is what it is. There's been so much turnover with this roster. I think we still kind of forgot about the culture that he took over at the end of last year. And it sounds like a lot of dudes are walking through a lot of plays. And if they're not involved with the play, they're not selling exactly what their role is on that any given play. Even, Shane Hooks, who was the wide receiver that had an incredible catch that Auburn put all over social media. He praised him, but he's like, well, he's still loafing, when he's running, the routes on the back end. So that seems to be a consistent theme throughout fall camp. And also he kind of mentioned in both scrimmages, they were kind of just walking around, that they needed more energy. So it could be an actual problem, but it also wouldn't shock me if he was just trying to, send a message to his team.
It seems like every time I check out what's going on in Auburn's camp, people are talking about Izavion Miller. Tell us about this kid.
Yeah, he goes by Too Tall Miller because I guess he's too tall. I don't know. But number one JUCO offensive tackle out of Mississippi in the 2023 class, was committed to Ole Miss, flipped to Auburn after Hugh Freeze and his staff took over. And of course, they hired Jake Thornton, the offensive line coach from Ole Miss, to come over and join this staff. So I'm sure that had a big part of it. Talked to folks about Too Tall Miller in the spring, and they said, man, this guy's got all the traits. It's just he's raw. He's got to play football for some time. Then fast forward to last Thursday, the media gets an hour and a half viewing window as long as we promised Coach that we wouldn't take any video. And we saw him starting at right tackle. Then Gunnar Britton, the transfer from Western Kentucky, who was at right tackle, moved to that left guard spot, which is kind of surprising. I think this is a little bit ahead of schedule when you look at Izavion Miller's development, but novel concept, develop offensive linemen. Maybe that's finally happening at Auburn.
All right, so one of those scrimmages this weekend that really tells you a lot about a football team. If I said for you, the biggest takeaway from this scrimmage on a upbeat, on a high note, and then one down note from this scrimmage, what did your intel tell you from this past Saturday?
I mean, it sounds like things are coming together on the offensive side of the football. I think they're going to be comfortable passing the football more than they probably were a few weeks ago. I think some of that has to do with Peyton Thorne. And one of the reasons why Hugh Freeze said that he named Thorne the starter as early as he did in fall camp, which surprised me, I thought it happened sometime this week. Obviously, that's not the case, was he didn't want to feel Thorne pressing in that second scrimmage. It sounds like that was the case. It sounds like he was better with the football, still made a few decisions, including an interception based on several reports. So we'll see how that development happens moving forward. I think the biggest issue right now with this Auburn team is the run defense. And I'm sure there's one side of the coin that a lot of Auburn fans will choose to look at. It's like, well, Auburn's just so good at running the football. I don't think that's it. I think they'll have a fine running game. But I think when you look at their inability to stop the run back in the spring game at A-Day, and then it just sounds like Auburn's running backs are running rampant. They're running free virtually every 2 or 3 touches that they get the ball. They're busting a long run to the outside specifically. So that to me is the biggest thing that this Auburn team's got to focus on. Every scrimmage, the Auburn running game is just going all over the place. And I don't think it's going to be like, a top 1, 2, 3 rushing attack in the SEC. I think they'll be top half, but this rush defense, they've got to figure something out.
Zac Blackerby is with us, part of Village Vice, right there on the War Down Pod section of the Disrupt the Media YouTube channel. Also part of the Locked In Auburn Network. You can follow him at Z Blackerby on Twitter. He's on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. It sounds like perhaps the best we've seen this fall camp of Robby Ashford has been in the practices and scrimmage since he was told he was not the starter. That seems to be the reports on him.
Yeah. I mean, I think he was in some regard in the Thursday open window. They did a lot of red zone stuff. He was better than Peyton Thorne in that window. Pretty much everybody who was there saying that. And then he busted a long run on Saturday. It sounds like he was a much better passer on Saturday. So I am curious to see, because that was the biggest question, right? He's like, how is Robby going to respond to this news? And it sounds like he's responded well. He's continuing to fight. And so I don't know what that necessarily means as far as how Hugh Freeze wants to use him, but he did kind of call him out when he was asked about the starting quarterback battle and eventually naming Peyton Thorne. He said Robby will always have packages if he does what he's supposed to do. And he said that multiple times. And I think that was him talking more to Robby Ashford than talking to the actual media that was in attendance. But maybe this is Robby doing what he's supposed to do. I think he's too electric to keep him on the sideline for all 60 minutes of a football game. So we'll certainly see what that looks like, but it sounds like he's doing what's being asked of him, which is good. That's what Auburn needs.
The last time we saw a Florida International transfer tight end, Rivaldo Fairweather, on the field, 8 grabs, 152 yards, and 3 touchdowns against Middle Tennessee State. If I told you he ends up being one of the top 2 or 3 playmakers on this offense, would you believe it?
I would. I think he has to be, because I don't know. I've got a lot of questions about Auburn's wide receivers still, and it's good to hear about Shane Hooks. It's good to hear Javarius Johnson's returning from that issue that he had at practice where he had to get stitches on his mouth. I mean, there's a lot of different things and a lot of different questions about this Auburn receiving room, and there's a lot of injuries too. And so I think Rivaldo Fairweather will have to be a big part of this passing offense if it's going to be successful. And look, I mean, the way the guy moves, it's smoother than any other pass catcher on this Auburn offense. I also think he's going to be explosive, and he's got the size. He certainly passes the eye test. I also have been told that his issue is blocking. And so you're probably going to have to ask him to run more routes than a traditional tight end, which is definitely what his skill set is. And that's why you brought him in. But yeah, I don't think it surprised me at all. I think it would actually be almost bad for Auburn if he wasn't top 3 in receptions or receiving yards.
Okay, when you look past your fake-ass cactus back there, out your window where you can see everything. I added
more. Did you see that I added more?
Oh, it's a growing forest back there. Do you call it a forest of cacti? Is that what it is?
My wife calls it a dude desert.
Yeah,
a
dude
desert. Dude desert.
I assume, because I only see you in this setting, whether it's on Village Vice or when you're on our show, I assume occasionally you do go outside, that your only sunlight is not from that window right there. So when you are outside and you venture over to Jordan-Hare Stadium for a game, are you one of those people that believe that place is magical for the home team, that crazy things happen in that place for Auburn football? And as I was going to break, I started talking about they're going to honor the 83 team, the 93 team, and the 2013 team. Do you start feeling there's a little magic starting to build around this football team?
I think maybe, I think you could talk me into, the Ole Miss and the Alabama game, but Georgia, I don't think there's any chance Auburn wins that football game. I think they could bring any former Auburn player to ever play into Jordan-Hare Stadium. I don't think they're going to beat Georgia this year, but if you want to talk me into, you play the kick 6 a bunch of times before the Iron Bowl kicks off this year, and maybe Auburn starts trending up in the right direction in the second half of the season, they start believing in themselves. Sure, maybe, but look, we all saw what Jordan-Hare can be. We see it every few years, but it's been a minute until, Brian Harsin got fired, and then it kind of marked the end of the potato famine, and Carnell Williams runs out with his team, and we saw, 2 teams that weren't very good in the SEC play for what felt like an SEC West championship. Obviously, it was far from that, but sure, Jordan-Hare Stadium, I mean, it can do anything. Weird things have happened there. There's no question about it, but I'm not counting on Auburn beating Georgia or Alabama at home this year.
Okay, so if I told you, though, I would give you Cam Newton, the second half he had in Tuscaloosa in 2010. I'll give you that for 4 quarters. With the rest of this Auburn roster, you don't think they could beat Georgia at home?
Oh, yeah, sure. If we got 2010 Cam Newton to play quarterback, yeah.
Okay,
I'll give you that. But I'm just saying, I don't think it matters who's in attendance in those games. I don't think Auburn's going to win them.
That would take a magical window that you're looking out to get 2010 second half Iron Bowl Cam Newton back. That would be some mystical stuff.
Well, Cam's in his 30s now, so yes.
But what would Cam Newton's NIL be if you knew exactly what you were getting going in?
I don't know.
It'd be a lot.
Yeah, it's a $10
million. No question about it.
All I know, Tracy Wolfson would not have had to work as hard as she did back in 2010 if there was NIL back then. She wouldn't have had anything to report pregame, whether Cam was playing or not, every freaking Saturday.
Uzzu TV, you're a consumer. Lance is now interested. Tell us about it, Zach.
Yeah, it's got everything. It is a little concerning when you pull it up everywhere on their website. It's like, this is legal. We are legal. It's a little weird. I feel like if you're totally in the clear, you don't have to put that everywhere. But no, I think it's worth it until they get busted and go down. I think it's great.
And Braves fans hate how Bally's is set up. I see your Acuna jersey hanging on your chair there.
That's why I got it. It's because we use Hulu for our TV provider, so we can't watch the Braves games. And so one of my buddies, who's a big Braves guy, said, "Hey, check this out," and it's been great. He's had it for like 4 or 5 years, longer than your previous caller, and he said he's never had an issue with it.
So you're looking into the reflection of his Bo Jackson jersey, seeing the Acuna jersey.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what we call observations.
I'm looking into the reflection. Is that a New England Patriots logo?
He's got
at the
a
top?
Patriot logo on his shirt.
Yep. I'm a big Pats guy. Speaking of Cam Newton, got the Cam Newton Pat shirt going on.
Wow.
So
that's funny.
throwback to the COVID year. That's right.
Yeah. Keep that in mind that we can see everything on the other side of the room in that reflection.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So, hey,
It's
one
good
more
to know.
thing on Uzzu, though. There's no blackouts, right? Because an example would be I get NBA League Pass, and for whatever reason, every time my Lakers play the Pelicans, that game is blacked out. And I never could get an answer why. But they sit here and they promote there's 0 blackouts.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that there's not. I've only watched MLB games on there because I've only had it since the start of the baseball season. But there are games that would be blacked out for other people watching Braves games, and I've been able to watch them just fine. So, yeah, it should be good.
But it's totally legal. Absolutely legal.
That's what they say.
I'm with Zach. If you have to say that too much.
Nothing to see here.
That's
It
right.
is absolutely legal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like somebody saying they're innocent over and over and over again. It's like I don't think innocent people say that.
Basically, this is over-the-counter television.
All right. Aside from Uzzu TV, go watch Village Vice 4 days a week. Village Vice right there in the War Down Pod section of the Disrupt the Media YouTube channel. Follow Zach on Twitter at Zac Blackerby. Thank you very much for the time, Zach. Have a great week.
Hey, thanks, guys. Have a good one.